Hi, this is Coaching in a Virtual Environment. My name is Thomas Vaak, and I'm about to take you through what it means to coach in a virtual environment. We're going to look at some intentions. We're going to look at what's different about doing this in a virtual environment. We're going to look at the relationship between the coach and the coachee, a bit on virtual coaching, the questions, Socratic coaching, do's and don'ts, and the grow model. So let's look at key intentions for a coach first. Ultimately, whether you're coaching virtually or not, the purpose should be to help someone see where they can go and how much potential they have rather than where they are. And the test is, if you've done your job as a virtual coach in a good way, then that person will go on and be successful afterwards, whether you're in touch with them or not. So you really leave a legacy with them. They build it up. And finally, it's not about lighting a fire, as you can see in the quote, but it's about fanning the flames that are already there. So when we look at coaching in a virtual environment, what does that actually mean? Well, there's distance. You're far away from the person. You're on a virtual platform. That means it's a less intimate conversation, because you're not face-to-face. If you have luck, you're video to video, you can see each other's faces, and usually it's voice-to-voice. So intimacy and visibility are things that you really need to pay attention to. If you coach virtually, use your camera. Time zones, that's another issue. We tend to be very much oriented towards our own time zones. Good thing to do with a coachee in another time zone is to ask them first, what's their best period of being coached and seeing if that can line up. There are cultural differences which are easier to notice when you're in the room with the person because you see their body language and their facial expression than when you do it virtually. So there's a lot about checking back with the other person how things are going and what things could be improved. There's a daily situation. If you're coaching somebody who's close by, you know what they're going through. You know the people they meet. So it's very easy to assess where they are and how they feel. When someone's at a distance, you really have to make sure that you ask about how the situation is, what they're going through, what they see happening around them, because you don't, because of the distance. The same goes for stakeholders and influencers. When you're coaching someone virtually, you're usually far away from their stakeholders as well. So again, that takes an extra effort to ask them what's going on with their stakeholders and to make it a point to get to know some of them. Essentially, the relationship between the coach and coachee doesn't change whether you're coaching virtually or face-to-face. There are four things which are really important. First of all, for the coachee, what do I want to achieve? And what can I contribute actually as a coachee? So don't let the coach do all the work. How do I want to be treated? And how do we work together? 4 questions to set as a baseline and really make specific agreements about when you start a coaching relationship, and particularly in a virtual setting. So here are some practical tips when you're actually doing this. So you'll probably do it via link or maybe over the phone. Link is cheaper, so I would say do it via link and use the camera there. Always start by checking in. A check-in always helps people to land and connect to each other. And it's the simple question, how do you feel? And anything keeping you from being fully present. Next, link allows you to use the whiteboard on which you can both write. So if you're brainstorming, you can record things as you discuss them, and they become visible, and they also become a track record of your conversation. Share your screens, do things live, make the things that you talk about as visible as possible. And more than even in a face-to-face coaching situation, be personal, which means use the other person's name. Even though it's really tempting after you've known each other for a while not to. It feels a little artificial, but just hearing your name creates a sense of intimacy. Particularly when you're coaching someone without video, so it's just voice to voice, we often tend to think that when the other person's quiet, they're agreeing with us or they understand what we mean. They actually don't. So if you want to be really sure that what you're saying has landed, or be really sure that your coachee understands, then ask. You need verbal feedback. So words back at you to show whether that person agrees or understands or is ready to act. Now, in very practical terms, I've already said this 10 times, I think, use the video if that's possible, so you can see each other's faces. Timing-wise, align your rhythms and plan for the long term. Plan all the coaching appointments for half a year or a year so that there's a steady beat and it's at a time that you're both comfortable with. And if the time zones is different, then share the pain, maybe late night for you in one week or 1 month, and early morning for the other person the other time. But make sure that there's a balance. Now, it's also important to learn how the coachee would like to be coached. That's not especially different in a virtual environment or a face-to-face environment, but again, because of the distance, it's really good to make this explicit. So questions like, what would you like to achieve? And then, how can I best help you with this? Do you want me to think this through with me? What would work for you? If you've got some ideas, first ask if they want to receive some ideas. Yeah? Would it be helpful if I told you what I think? So really, really spend some time figuring out what your coachee needs, how your coachee needs to be coached. And that's not done through assumptions, it's done by asking them. Now, there's a lot of text on this slide. I don't want you to worry about all this text. I want you to get the difference between leading questions and open questions. In a leading question, your personal opinion is already wrapped up in it. So things like, don't you think that this solution is the best one? Yeah, you're already assuming some agreement there. You're leading the person to what you think. Coaching is about enabling somebody to find out what they think and how they can resolve, how they can be strong. So open questions are much better, like, can you describe what happened? How did you feel? Can you tell me some more? What were the circumstances? And the best tip I can give you is if people use qualifiers. So if they say things like, this was really bad, or this was really frightening, or this was really something that was difficult, bad, difficult, frightening, then ask, okay, so what was difficult about it? What was frightening about it? Tell me some more about it being difficult. So hang on to the qualifiers so you can really get that person to open up for what they want to talk to you about. There are obviously some do's and don'ts for coaching. I'm not going to read through all of these with you because that will be totally boring. But for a couple of the don'ts, don't listen to response. So don't listen for your own ideas as a coachee, and particularly when you're at a distance, that's difficult because you always have this feeling there's a limited amount of time. I want to get this through to the other person, and coaching is not about that. Coaching is about, I want to get that other person to realize their own solutions. So listen for the other person's information and build on that. Yeah. Don't fill in gaps of silence with your own thoughts and feelings, like I'm doing right now, because nobody's talking back to me right now. But if you're in a coaching situation, then use silence, actually, to help the other person to presence what they think or need. There are a couple more tips in here which you can read at your own leisure, and I'm hoping that that's going to give you a couple of the do's and don'ts, particularly also in virtual coaching. Let me end with the last one. Do show empathy. Show you understand how somebody feels, right? As opposed to something you shouldn't do is focusing on sympathy, saying you feel just the same. Yeah, basically, as a coach, you're neutral and you're a mirror. So recognizing what someone else feels, particularly if it's across a distance, you should do very clearly in words and how your voice sounds. Finally, there is a model to coaching which you can use whether you're doing it virtually or not. And it's the GROW model. So you always start with the goal. What do you really want? What would you like to achieve? Yeah. And then you do a little exploring. So what's happening now? And what's making things difficult? And what can you influence? What can I influence? Then to come up with some options. Yeah, what could we actually do to resolve this? And then to agree a way forward. Now, particularly with virtual coaching, because you literally don't see one another, my suggestion is to use that whiteboard to actually write down some of the agreements that you make going forward, so that the next time that you see each other, you can get back to that and see how things went and build from there. If I were to summarize the important things to realize and to do when you're coaching someone at a distance, it's to pay more attention to finding out how they feel, where they're at, not to be satisfied with little short sentences, to keep on asking questions, to make things as visible as possible, yourself as well as the things that you're talking about, and to have a true rhythm to this, so that there is regularity and there is a relationship and a way of working that you build up over time. Now, what should you do next? Practice, practice, practice. Reflect with your coachee, with your colleagues, your own coach, on how you're doing with this. Read everything you can get your hands on. Stimulate your brain and improve your knowledge about coaching and virtual coaching. I still do that every day. Find each other on Phillips Community and share your experiences, your questions. And basically, really give it the core. And giving it the core means be yourself, give it your emotion, your passion, reach out to that other person, really let them know you're there for them to help build and make them successful. That's all I have to say about virtual coaching for now. I hope it's been helpful for you. If you want to pick up on it, you know where to find me. And this is me signing off, and I'm hoping you've enjoyed this. Bye.